Welcome to our journey to the Galapagos Islands with Haslemere Travel and Celebrity Cruises. My name is Johnny and I work for Celebrity Cruises, having done so for 7 years. It's a privilege to spend time with you today to share our standout Galapagos product with you. This is an armchair discovery to one of the most mysterious destinations on Earth. And in the next 30 minutes, I'll guide you through my own personal experience of celebrity flora and of the Galapagos Islands. There's lots to talk about, both destination-wise, as well as the unique features on board Celebrity Flora. But before we go any further, it would be remiss of me not to mention Flora's two sisters. We actually have a fleet of 3 in the Galapagos Islands and have been experts in luxury expedition there for over 16 years. That might surprise you, as we're generally better known for luxurious ocean cruising. This is a very niche product, and we're proud to work closely with the Galapagos National Park and the Ecuadorian governments to deliver unforgettable experiences that not only make for an amazing trip, but also help preserve the fragile environment. So here's what's included with a trip to the Galapagos with Celebrity Cruises. In essence, everything is included, whether it's your flights from the UK, the pre and post hotels, meals, drinks, the cruise itself, of course, national park entrance fees, all of the shore experiences, everything is included in your Galapagos holiday. So Celebrity Flora, I was proud and privileged to be able to join Flora on her inaugural sailing back in June 2019. This is when she was named. And I just wanted to call out a couple of numbers here that I think are really relevant and will explain why that experience is so amazing. First and foremost, the crew to guest ratio on Flora is incredible. We have 81 crew strong for just 100 guests. So that will give you some indication as to how incredible the service levels are on board. But more importantly is the guest to naturalist ratio, which is the best ratio in the Galapagos Islands, with 1 naturalist to every 10 guests. Now, where this becomes really important is on the island experiences themselves, and I will talk a little bit more about that later on. So I experienced Flora on a 10-night Quito and Galapagos tour, which is what I'll run through today. We do have options. Gemma and the team at Haslemere Travel are more than happy to talk you through other options. I will touch a little bit later on an extension we have, which enables you to combine Quito and the Galapagos with a trip to Peru. But for now, I'll just concentrate on the 10-night Quito and Galapagos experience with Flora. And I'm going to walk you through that experience right from the outset to give a good indication of how we will look after you during your trip. So the departure day from the UK, I flew from Heathrow Airport. Other airports are available, and it was a really smooth connection in Amsterdam. So Heathrow to Amsterdam, and then across, it's roughly a 12-hour flight across to Quito, meaning that you arrive early evening. And KLM offer a great service, as well as the economy seats. They have premium and business class available. Again, Gemma and the team are more than happy to talk that through with you. But it's when you arrive into Quito that you really will start to experience the incredible service of Celebrity and the Galapagos. You will be met and greeted on arrival by your tour director, also is your naturalist. So right from the outset, you'll be able to make that connection with the expert that is really going to make all the difference during your trip. So on the first evening, a couple of choices here actually. We will assist you with check-in at the JW Marriott in Quito, really close to downtown Quito. We've used this hotel now since we began our program for 16 years. It's a really great property. We have a wonderful relationship with them. On your first evening, you can either enjoy the hotel facilities and relax, or you could do what I did, which was to take a shuttle bus to downtown Quito and just try and get a bit of a feel for the vibe of the city itself. And dinner on your first evening is at your leisure. So really, I guess this is where everything begins on day 2, where you will awake refreshed, no doubt, and you'll start to climatise. Quito is a wonderful city. It is beautiful, historical, and there is an awful lot to see. And as part of your Galapagos trip, or of your Galapagos and Quito trip rather, we offer a full day tour of Quito, which is that is held by a local guide, so they really know their stuff. They're very informed, and they will actually act as your personal concierge right through the day on day 2. Quito is it's the second highest capital city in the world, at 9,350 feet above sea level, and there's lots of dramatic views throughout the city. So yeah, you'll wake up, have breakfast in the hotel, and then you will begin your full day tour with the experts. You'll see things such as the Solar Museum and also the Monastery of San Francisco. Lunch and dinner is served during the first day, and we use 2 very different local gourmet restaurants, very authentic dining experiences from the outset. And yeah, I'm sure you'll be absolutely captivated with the city of Quito. So then on day 3, again, we have a breakfast at the hotel, and then you will again be fully escorted by your tour director to pick up a charter flight to the islands of Galapagos. So that flight departs at 10 a.m. And this flight is exclusive to celebrity cruises. So everyone on that flight will be heading to Celebrity Flora. You'll be with your fellow passengers on that exclusive charter flight. The reason why I think that is so relevant is it's very important that this is a seamless experience. So there's no waiting around, there's no hanging around for other guests to arrive from other parts of the world. We're in control of that flight, and you're going to be all arriving together, ready to embark Flora, and it does make for a very seamless trip. So just to put things into perspective a little bit, here you can see where Quito and the islands are in relation to each other. It's about 1,300 kilometers or 2.5 hours away from the mainland of Ecuador to the islands. And it's a really dramatic view, especially as you head out of Ecuador. The views are absolutely amazing. And again, remember that the naturalist and your tour director is with you the whole way, and they really are there to kind of answer as many questions as you like. I very much enjoyed bending their ear and finding out lots of information about what was to come during the trip. So when we arrive into the airport at Baltra, it's a very, very seamless transition from the airport across to Flora, just 10 minutes away actually. You will have access to a private lounge in the airport while your luggage is being sent ahead to your suites. And you'll also have all of the very strict arrival processes taken care of for you. The Galapagos Islands are extremely well protected, and we work very closely with all of the authorities there to make sure that all of the paperwork and everything that's required to access the islands is all done for you. You have nothing to worry about other than start to take in those breathtaking views of the islands. And here you can see this is how you actually will embark Celebrity Flora. If you've not done an expedition trip before, I hadn't, this was very new to me. These are state-of-the-art tenders, and this is exactly how you will head over to the ship. So this is your view as we arrive. We actually embark at the marina, which is at the back of Celebrity Flora, and you will of course be met by our hotel director. There's a wonderful lunch on board. So if your suites are ready, you can feel free to go and freshen up, acclimatise, whatever you want to do. And then after lunch, we actually begin sailing as the first island experience begins that very afternoon. So for fear of repeating myself, a reminder that everything is included with this trip. What I'm showing here is a list that is by no means exhaustive, but these are just some of the other features that Flora has to really make sure that the next 7 days is extra special and extra comfortable for you. So the crew really are there to offer an amazing, luxurious adventure experience. So let's talk about a couple of the accommodations. I'm going to talk through the penthouse suite and also the sky suite. There are a number of accommodation options on board Celebrity Flora. Gemma and the team at Haslemere are very au fait with Flora and the differences between the suites. I'm going to share just a couple today, but do feel free to ask them about any of the others between these options. So what you see here is the penthouse suite. Located directly above the marina with unparalleled views, floor to ceiling windows. You can see that they're beautifully spacious, very well thought out. One of my favourite features actually, which is exclusive to us in the Galapagos Islands, is all of the beds are facing the water. So we don't have the kind of traditional cruise configuration, if you like. We make sure that all of the beds are outward facing. So you're going to get those wonderful views every morning, every time we wake up at a new island. So just some imagery of the penthouse suites. You can see very, very tastefully designed. The interiors were designed by a local interior designer using very sustainable materials, very in keeping with the islands. Very spacious. There is, in the penthouse suite, there is a bathroom with a hot tub, and you also have a huge private balcony with your own space to relax. And then the Sky Suite is the suite I enjoyed with a traditional balcony. So again, a nice spacious suite. You can see, again, we have the bed facing the window. It really made all the difference. All of the suites are fully automated. They have the very latest technology and features to make sure that you have everything at your fingertips and are in absolute comfort. So again, very well presented, and as I say, there are lots of other options in between. Do feel free to reach out for more information. So let's talk about some of the public areas on board Celebrity Flora. The first one I'd like to show you is an exclusive. This cannot be found anywhere else, and we have installed a state-of-the-art science lab, which will allow you a one-of-a-kind hands-on opportunity to learn about the makeup of the island that we are so committed to protecting. So this is where you get to spend time with the naturalists and the scientists on board and to really understand the makeup of the islands. They are so unique. We're partnered with a leading marine scientist organisation, and we share real-time data with these organisations globally that will actually help protect the islands for future generations. So the hope is that eventually, by the data that we're sharing, that we collect week in, week out as part of your voyage, we'll be able to predict El Nino, and El Nino as the phenomenon which can be devastating on the region. That happens about every 5 to 7 years, this will actually help conserve wildlife. So this is just one of the initiatives that shows you will be actually leaving the islands in a better place than you arrived. And then we have Darwin's Cove, which is another of the public areas. I'm going to pause here to tell you a little bit about the naturalists. This is where I spent a lot of my time in the evenings chatting to the naturalists following the day's experiences. Contrary to what you may have experienced on board other ships, the stars of the show here are not the captain nor the hotel director, but the naturalists are the ones who are local to the Galapagos Islands. They are the best in their field of expertise. They follow in the footsteps of Darwin and Attenborough, as do you, and they offer expert educational talks on board, and they will guide you every step of the way on the island. More than happy to carry on those conversations as we sail between the islands, and this was a great spot for just that. A reminder that the group sizes on the islands are just one naturalist to 10 guests, so you really get a great amount of time with them, and you can really learn all about the islands via their expertise. So here we have just one of the 2 restaurants. This is the Seaside Restaurant. All of our menus are crafted by our very own Michelin star chefs. The meals are a la carte. The menus are designed very much in keeping with the islands, as you can imagine. Fish, sustainable fish, is in abundance. It's sourced and is excellent. The restaurants have open seating, for example, for dinner. That will be served between the hours of 6 and 9. No formal attire required on board Celebrity Flora. Very much a luxury experience, but again, nothing like a traditional cruise experience where you might have things like black tie. As you can see the guests enjoying their dinner here, this is exactly the type of attire that I would recommend for you to take with you. And then we have my favourite restaurant out of the 2, which is Ocean Grill on the top deck. I dined under the stars most evenings. It was a wonderful atmosphere, very relaxed. I also enjoyed a cold beer as we arrived off the islands. It's a small bar, and it was just a lovely experience to be able to dine al fresco. Here we have the observatory, which is just above the bridge. Another cosy space with floor-to-ceiling windows, bringing you as close as possible to the islands, and a perfect place to learn more about each island as we sail. Just to mention a couple of the features that you might not expect on an expedition vessel, we have a spa and a small gym, which will allow you to relax or to keep up your routine, or both if you'd like to, just to sort of make you really of some of the features that are found on Flora that just will not be found anywhere else. And then on the top deck, the Sunset Lounge, you can see that lots of space, lots of areas to relax. And when you're not on the island, and we actually have two hot tubs on the top deck of Flora, which are really great to relax your muscles after a day on the islands. And just along, we have, you can see here another relaxating space, and then we have a couple of glamping pods. I'll explain what this is. Again, this is a one-of-a-kind experience on board Flora, where you have the opportunity via two adjoined cabanas to enjoy a tasting menu, where this is served to you, followed by cocktails, and then your very own naturalist will arrive as the night falls onto the islands, and they'll share one of nature's most spectacular shows with you. Stargazing with skies so clear you can see as far as the Milky Way. Due to the position of the islands, it's possible to see northern and southern constellations at the same time. It was really magical, really special. You then have the opportunity to fall asleep underneath the stars before being woken the following morning by breakfast in bed as the sun rises over a new island. That is a one-of-a-kind experience, only on Flora, and you can see there's some great visuals here to help bring that to life. Including, this is a very dramatic picture, and it actually is very representative of what I saw, with there being zero light pollution in the islands. So here is the Discovery Lounge, and this is the lounge that the naturalists will use as a platform, using that large screen to help talk you through the islands and the experience that we're about to enjoy, the fascinating island that we're about to visit next. And I'll start to tell you about the options for those shore experiences, which I'll run through in just a moment. So I mentioned earlier the state-of-the-art tenders. These are a first on the islands. They are there to give you the most comfortable and seamless transportation to and from the island using hydraulic technology to stabilise the tenders. So it's a very, very smooth trip to the islands. And these make both dry landings on a pier and wet landings directly onto the beach really comfortable. So let's talk a little bit about the itineraries. Flora has two itineraries, and we alternate one week to another, the inner and the outer loop. So we visit islands where wildlife is of abundance. And what I'd like to explain here is people often get caught up with which itinerary to take, and also what time of the year to travel to the Galapagos. So I'm going to try and help with that a little bit and explain how to perhaps approach when you would like to visit the Galapagos Islands to get the most out of your trip. So first of all, a million-dollar question is, what is the difference between the itineraries? Well, first and foremost, we're not allowed to visit the islands more often than we do. So that's why we have two itineraries. We're all about preserving the environment, as I mentioned earlier. But all of the, or both of the itineraries rather, feature the big four. So regardless of which one you choose, you will see blue-footed boobies, the sea lions, the sea turtles, and the giant tortoises. And the way to approach your trip, I guess, is to have a think about what species you would really like to see. I was very much inspired by David Attenborough, one of his documentaries, where I was fascinated by the marine iguanas. And I'll show you a photograph of those in just a second. But I think it's really about knowing what's important to you. If you're a keen bird watcher, there'll be islands that are better for bird watching. If you want to see the sea lions, there are islands that are better to see those. And Gemma and the team at Haslemere can tell you exactly when to travel to get the most out of your wildlife experience. So when it's best to visit, we sail all year round. This does kind of categorise, I guess, between warm, wettest and dry season. But in all honesty, there's not a lot of difference in the weather. It's fairly consistent right through the year. So the Galapagos Islands are excellent to visit through the year. As I say, try and keep things geared towards the wildlife that you'd like to enjoy. So for example, October, That's a great month to see the Galapagos fur seals. They begin their mating period, so they're very active on the island. The blue-footed boobies start to raise their chicks all over the island of Hispaniola, and there are lots of species of birds that are very active across all of the islands. So why Celebrity Flora? Well, she is brand new. She is the best vessel across the islands, and she really is the most unbelievable vessel in order to get the most out of a trip to this part of the world. She's just been voted best new ship in 2020 by Condé Nast readers, and she's actually producing the highest guest satisfaction scores out of our whole fleet with her standout features. I know it's important that you have a great trip, a wonderful trip, but it's also important to point out how carefully Flora was thought out with regards to the environment. Our aim is to leave the world in a better place than we arrived. And here are just a few of the innovations that Flora features that help ensure that we, and in turn you, do that. So first thing to point out is the dynamic position system. We have no anchor. This is a first, and this means that when we're not sailing, we're able to stabilize the vessel without causing any harm to the seabed. Lots of other examples here, as you can see. One that really surprised me was the detail of how well we're trying to conserve the environment, down to the fact that we even use recycled air conditioning water on board to make sure that we really are minimizing any impact. So the island experiences themselves, there are lots of options, as I briefly mentioned. So we have all the kit available, everything you need for snorkeling. We have a fleet of kayaks, all of the gear for the off-beach excursions. That's all provided as part of your trip and is exclusive to you. We also have the hiking gear. So what I wanted to explain here is the island experiences are they're kind of for anyone, actually. I think there's a general rule of thumb, as long as you're able to walk up a flight of stairs unaided, you can enjoy the Galapagos Islands on Celebrity Flora. You don't have to be particularly fit. This really kind of is open to everyone. Having said that, we want to give a great choice of island experiences and make sure that you're really enjoying yourself. So there tend to be a choice of 2 or 3 experiences for each stop. So I'll talk you through a couple of my own experiences here. This is the island of Hispaniola, and this, you can see Flora in the background there, and these are my own photos, so I'll show you now, and this is just how close we were to nature. So this was a wet landing. So we arrived onto the beach wearing the correct attire, and we were met by the most glorious colony of sea lions. And the rocks that you can see in the distance there on the right, we were able to actually swim to those rocks with our naturalist, and we then enjoyed playing with the sea lion pups. So there's no fear from the creatures in the Galapagos. They are actually very curious of human interaction, but there is no fear at all. So that means that you can get up close and personal without them running away. We're just a kind of another being, if you like, in their space. So we're very respectful of their space, and that is first and foremost important. But we also really offer you the chance to get close to nature with the naturalist that is there in equal measure for the species, but also for your enjoyment. Remembering it's that group size of just 10 people, which really, really will make all of the difference. So this was a fellow passenger who took these ones on a great underwater camera. The only regret I have actually is not taking a half decent camera with me. So one to think about perhaps is that you take something to capture all of those moments. And yet very, very playful sea lion pups. So after our morning on Gardner Bay, we then headed back to Flora for lunch, and then we headed to the north of Hispaniola to Suarez Point, where we saw waved albatross, which are endemic to the island. You can't find these anywhere else, and it was absolutely magnificent to see. I do not forget the look on everyone's faces as the naturalists talked through how these species came about, how they came to the islands, and how they've adapted over time. And incredibly, their mating dance, which they do by kind of tapping each other's beaks, that can last up for 20 minutes, and it's just an absolutely majestic sight. And here's my favourite I spoke of earlier. Some people, like Darwin, found them disgusting, hideous. I find them so mesmerising to watch. They're the only sea-going lizards in the world. And what they're doing here is baking themselves on the rocks in the sun to regulate their body temperature. They've actually adapted over time to dive into the sea right to the bottom to collect that plankton, and that's what they feed on. But they can't spend too much time in the water, or their joints seize up. So, as I say, here what they're doing is regulating their temperature before they head down for their next feed. And then on the same spot, we got up close and personal with the Nazca boobies. Again, really, really close. Everybody had the opportunity to take those money shots, and it was just wonderful to see all of these species in their own natural habitat, knowing that really not many people are ever going to get the opportunity to do so. And then one of the other islands that I'd just like to mention briefly is Santa Cruz. This is home of the Charles Darwin Foundation. And this is where we actually give you the opportunity to give back in the form of tree planting. Our guests really enjoy this experience. It's all part of your trip again, and we have the opportunity to go up to the Highlands during the afternoon in Santa Cruz and plant some trees. Celebrity is actually responsible for planting over 30,000 trees to date, just part of our conservation efforts, working very closely with the locals. What I don't want to do is give everything away today. What I really enjoyed was discovering things for the first time on the island. So I think that's enough to give you a bit of an indication about what the island experiences are like. I'm just going to fast forward now to debarking, Flora, unfortunately. So breakfast is served on the final day. And then again, you are fully escorted by your tour director from Baltra Airport back to Quito. Again, all of the required paperwork is all done for you. You don't need to worry about anything like that. It's quite complex. It takes time, and that is all done for you ahead of arriving to the airport, making that trip as seamless as possible. And then you finish with one final night at the JW Marriott, where you can continue to enjoy Quito, or you could just relax before you take your flight home. The one thing that I'd like to mention is we do have the opportunity to match the Galapagos and Quito with Machu Picchu. This is a 6-night extension, and we work with the very best options for land and transportation as part of this extension, including Belmond. I know that Haslemere Travel work really closely with Belmond Properties, and that's exactly who we work with, which again gives you an indication as to the quality of this trip that we're talking about. So do speak to Gemma and the team about the opportunity to extend your trip. I know at the moment, as we're all desperate to get away, and I think perhaps having these two things matched up, if you're going all the way to South America, feels like possibly a great idea. So here is an example of our 10-night trip in August 2022. The deposits are very low, which is great. It's just £300 per person deposit for this trip. And as I mentioned, everything is included. The fare at the moment for enjoying a Sky Suite that I showed you is £8,599 per person. And of course, if you want to extend or look at the other options, then Gemma is ready to help with that. I just wanted to touch here about the confidence that you should have with Celebrity, aligned with Haslemere Travel. We have an industry-leading policy to make sure that you are very, very well looked after. So right through the course of the last 12 months, while we find ourselves in this awful pandemic, we have been leading the way with making sure that our guests are communicated with, where necessary, refunding, and also moving trips to future seasons. Whatever really has worked for our guests, it's been most important that we do things right and we do the right things by our guests. And I'm really proud to say that Celebrity have led the way with that as part of our Cruise with Confidence policy. And yeah, Gemma and the team at Haslemere will very much advocate that. So please do ask them about that. So that is all I have to tell you. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it. I am more than happy to speak to you with Gemma, if you'd like to speak to us together to answer any more questions. All that remains for me to say is I hope that you manage to get something booked very soon as the world starts to open up again. And yeah, thank you very much for listening.